Once again, the sun bathed the dining table in a warm, golden glow as Alex and Lila shared their customary weekend breakfast. To any outside observer, they would appear to be the ideal couple, at ease, happy, and deeply in tune with one another. But Alex was more aware than anyone else. He had noticed the shifts in Lila, subtle at first. She had begun to take longer getting ready for work, had more late nights, and her smile had lost its warmth, no longer reaching her eyes. For months, he had pushed the unsettling thoughts aside, convincing himself that it was just stress or the ebb and flow that came with a long relationship. But now, as he watched her scrolling absent-mindedly through her phone across from him, Alex could feel the growing distance between them, a divide he couldn't ignore. "Hey!" he said softly, trying to break her focus. She looked up at him, startled, as if she had forgotten he was even there. "You've been a bit distant lately," Alex continued, forcing a smile. "Is everything okay?" Lila paused, her fingers hovering above her coffee cup as she considered her response. "Yeah, of course. Work's just been a lot," she replied, her voice flat. Alex nodded, trying to convince himself that her answer was enough. But the uneasy feeling gnawing at him refused to fade. That evening, in an attempt to reconnect, Alex suggested they go to their favorite Italian restaurant. Maybe a change of setting would help rekindle the closeness they once shared. Lila agreed, though her response lacked any real enthusiasm. At the restaurant, nestled in the cozy warmth of the familiar atmosphere, Alex noticed Lila's restless fidgeting. Her eyes darted around the room, and her fingers anxiously twisted the edge of her napkin. Finally, she spoke. "Alex, I've been thinking." Her voice was careful, yet trembling. Alex set his glass of wine down, a sense of dread tightening in his chest at the tone in her voice. "What's on your mind?" he asked. Lila took a deep breath before continuing. "Maybe we need to try something different, to reignite what we've lost." Alex blinked, caught off guard. "Different," he repeated, confused. "What do you mean?" Lila shifted in her seat, avoiding his gaze. "I mean, maybe we could give each other a little freedom, just for one night. No strings attached, no judgment. A chance to, explore." The air seemed to freeze around Alex as he processed her words. He stared at her, his mind racing to comprehend what she was suggesting. "You want a free pass?" he asked, the shock evident in his voice. "It's not what you think," Lila said quickly, her voice rising in defense. "It's not about not loving you. It's just about having a little fun, a way to feel alive again." The word alive struck Alex like a sharp blade. Wasn't there enough life between them already? Hadn't he given her everything he had, his time, his energy, his love? "Lila," he said quietly, his voice shaking, "if that's truly what you want, we'll talk about it later." Her relief was almost tangible. She smiled, reaching for his hand. "Thank you, Alex. I knew you'd understand." But as they left the restaurant, Alex's thoughts were already racing, beginning to form an unsettling plan. The days that followed Lila's surprising suggestion felt like a blur to Alex. Meanwhile, Lila seemed lighter, almost carefree, as if simply voicing her desires had unburdened her. But for Alex, the weight of the situation pulled him deeper into despair. Every shared moment with her felt empty, like a cruel imitation of the life they once knew. At breakfast, Lila hummed cheerfully as she spread butter on her toast. "I've been thinking," she said, glancing up at Alex. "We should redo the living room. Maybe some new furniture, a fresh start." Alex, taking a sip of his coffee, forced a smile. "Sure, whatever you want." But inside, his thoughts churned. A fresh start? Was that how she justified her betrayal? A redecoration to cover up the cracks she had made in their foundation? As the weeks went by, Lila's behavior became even more unsettling. She spent more time in front of the mirror, perfecting her makeup. She laughed more freely, though the sound grated on Alex's nerves. It wasn't the same laughter she had once shared with him. It was different now, filled with something else, something he couldn't quite place: anticipation. One evening, Lila walked into their bedroom wearing a dress Alex hadn't seen in years. It hugged her figure, accentuating every curve. "How do I look?" she asked, spinning slowly. Alex's throat tightened, struggling to force the words out. "You look stunning." Her smile brightened, and she kissed him on the cheek before heading toward the door. "Just meeting some friends for drinks," she said casually. As the door clicked shut behind her, Alex sat in the silence of their home, staring at the emptiness she had left behind. Beneath his outward facade of indifference, his mind raced. Alex moved with calculated precision, seeking the guidance of a lawyer to protect his finances while bracing himself for the possibility that his marriage might crumble under the weight of Lila's betrayal. He began transferring precious personal items, family heirlooms, and important documents to Rick's house. Rick, ever the loyal friend, stood by him as a voice of reason. "Are you sure this is a path you want to take?" Rick asked one night as Alex packed up his belongings. Alex's jaw tightened. "She treated my trust like it was disposable, Rick. I can't just let her get away with this." Rick nodded, though doubt lingered in his eyes. "Just don't forget who you are, Alex. Revenge has a way of consuming you." Alex didn't reply, his thoughts focused solely on his long-term plan. Each step he took was measured and deliberate. When Lila finally revealed her intention to use her free pass, Alex kept his emotions hidden beneath a calm facade. "You okay with this?" she asked, her voice a mix of hesitation and excitement. Alex gave a small shrug. "If it's what you need, I won't stand in your way." Lila's smile lit up the room as she kissed him on the cheek and walked out the door, unaware that her decision had set the stage for Alex's carefully orchestrated revenge. The hours dragged on as Alex sat alone in their house, the silence pressing down on him. He poured himself a drink, the amber liquid swirling in his glass as his gaze locked onto the clock. When Lila finally returned, her makeup smudged, her hair disheveled, she hurried past him with a flimsy excuse. "It was just dinner, nothing serious," she called over her shoulder. Alex didn't answer. He simply watched her retreat into the bedroom, his silence more telling than any words could have been. The following morning, Lila was unusually affectionate, kissing Alex's cheek and bringing him coffee in bed. "We should plan a trip together," she suggested brightly. "Just the two of us." Alex managed a faint smile, hiding the storm brewing inside him. "Sure, we'll talk about it later." Over the next week, Alex set his plan in motion. He met with mutual acquaintances, subtly planting seeds of doubt about his relationship with Lila. He dropped hints about moving on and finding someone who valued trust. The rumors spread quickly, and as they did, so did the cracks in Lila's carefully maintained facade. Alex knew it was only a matter of time before Lila discovered the truth. One afternoon, he posted a carefully staged photo on social media, himself with a colleague, her smile warm and inviting. The caption read, "Grateful for second chances. Trust means everything." The reaction was swift. Lila's messages flooded his phone, each one more desperate than the last. When Alex finally agreed to meet her, he chose the same restaurant where she had first mentioned the idea of a free pass. Lila arrived looking fragile, her face pale from sleepless nights. She sat across from Alex, her hands shaking. "I've made mistakes," she began quietly, her voice trembling. "But I know we can fix this." Alex's expression remained impassive as he slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" Lila asked, her voice unsure. "Open it," Alex replied flatly. With trembling hands, Lila unfolded the papers inside. Her eyes grew wide as she read the words. Separation agreement. "No," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "This isn't what I want." Alex's gaze remained steady, his tone cold. "You wanted freedom, Lila. Now you have it." Later that night, Lila sat in the bedroom they had once shared, clutching the separation papers. Her hands shook as she stared at the words, the tears blurring her vision. The reality of the situation began to sink in. Alex was serious. He wasn't angry the way she had expected. His calmness made the sting even worse. For the first few days, she clung to denial. She called Alex over and over, leaving voicemail after voicemail. "Alex, please, we need to talk. This isn't what I wanted." She even tried showing up at Rick's apartment, only to be met with a firm, yet sympathetic response. "He doesn't want to see you right now, Lila." The walls of their shared home felt like they were closing in on her. Every photograph, every piece of furniture, held memories of a life she had once taken for granted. The weight of her decisions pressed down on her like a physical burden. Meanwhile, Alex remained resolute. His silence wasn't born from anger or revenge. It was strategic. He wanted Lila to fully comprehend the consequences of her actions, to truly feel the emptiness her choices had caused. At Rick's apartment, Alex focused on rebuilding. He threw himself into his work, hit the gym with newfound intensity, and reconnected with old friends he had lost touch with during his marriage. Each day brought Alex a step closer to reclaiming control over his life, free from the grip of Lila's betrayal. "You seem different," Rick remarked one evening as they shared drinks on the balcony. Alex nodded, his gaze fixed on the city lights below. "For the first time in months, I feel like I'm in control again. It's freeing." Rick smiled faintly. "Just don't let her pull you back in. You've come too far to let her drag you down." Alex's response was firm. "She won't. I've made my choice." Weeks went by, and Lila's desperation only deepened. She flooded Alex's phone with long messages, swinging between pleading for forgiveness and launching angry accusations. "You're being so cruel, Alex. I made one mistake, and now you're throwing everything away." Alex read each message but chose not to respond. Meanwhile, Lila's facade began to crack. At work, she found it difficult to concentrate, her thoughts consumed by regret and self-doubt. Her colleagues began to notice her erratic behavior, canceling plans last minute, breaking down in tears over insignificant things. "Are you all right?" one of her co-workers asked cautiously during lunch. Lila forced a smile, though it never reached her eyes. "Yeah, just a lot going on at home." But it wasn't just at work. Lila's once vibrant social life started to fade as whispers of Alex's supposed new relationship spread among their mutual friends. One evening, as she aimlessly scrolled through her phone, Lila stumbled upon Alex's post, an image of him with another woman, smiling confidently. The caption read, "Grateful for second chances. Trust and loyalty mean everything." Her heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the photo. Was it real? Had he truly moved on so quickly? Overcome with emotion, she dialed his number without thinking. To her surprise, Alex answered. "Alex," Lila began, her voice shaking. "Is it true? Are you seeing someone else?" There was a long pause on the other end before Alex spoke. His tone was calm, almost detached. "What does it matter, Lila? You were the one who wanted freedom." "That's not fair," she cried. "I didn't mean it like that. I thought we could work through this. I didn't think you'd just replace me." Alex's voice remained steady, but firm. "I didn't replace you, Lila. You replaced us the moment you decided we weren't enough for you." The call ended abruptly, leaving Lila in tears. When Alex finally agreed to meet her for dinner, Lila arrived a shadow of her former self. Lila arrived at the Italian restaurant, her fragile appearance betraying the toll sleepless nights had taken on her. The makeup she wore couldn't mask the exhaustion in her eyes. Across from her, Alex sat poised and collected. His tailored suit and confident posture made it clear he was a man who had already moved past the wreckage of their relationship. Lila nervously twisted her napkin, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. "Thank you for meeting me," she said softly. Alex nodded but remained silent. "I know I hurt you," she continued, her voice trembling. "I thought I needed something more, but I see now that it was a mistake. I don't need freedom, Alex. I need you." Alex leaned back in his chair, his face a mask of indifference. "Do you know what I needed, Lila?" he asked, his voice steady. I needed loyalty. I needed a partner who respected the life we built together. But you decided that wasn't enough. Tears welled up in Lila's eyes. I was wrong. I see that now. Please, Alex, give me one more chance. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, sliding it across the table toward her. What's this? Lila asked, her hand shaking as she opened it. Consider my answer, Alex said calmly. Her eyes widened as she read the legal document inside. You're divorcing me, she whispered in disbelief. You wanted freedom, Lila, Alex replied, his tone unwavering. Now you have it. Lila's sobs broke through the silence, her grief echoing through the restaurant. But Alex remained resolute, adjusting his jacket with finality. This is your free pass, he said softly. A free pass to move on without me. With that, he stood and walked away, leaving Lila to face the consequences of her own choices. For Alex, the weeks that followed marked a profound shift in his life. He finalized the sale of their home, signed the divorce papers, and firmly closed the door on his past with Lila. He channeled his energy into new projects at work, traveled to destinations he had always dreamed of, and reconnected with hobbies he had neglected for too long. As time passed, the weight of betrayal began to lift, replaced by a sense of freedom and self-worth he hadn't felt in years. Meanwhile, Lila was left to wrestle with the emptiness of her decisions. The life she had once taken for granted was now gone, along with the man who had loved her unconditionally